On the morning of October 31st, 1955, a seemingly ordinary Halloween day, Marilyn Damman, a 24-year-old mother, took her 2-year-old son Steven and his infant sister Pamela to a grocery store in East Meadow, Long Island. At this time, suburban America was shaped by a post-war optimism and trust that permeated daily life, particularly in places like East Meadow, which had a close-knit, neighborly atmosphere. Families routinely left doors unlocked, children played freely in the streets, and trust within the community was commonplace. It was in this climate that Marilyn felt comfortable leaving her children in the stroller outside the Food Fair grocery store while she ran a quick errand inside. As she stepped out, she was confronted with an unimaginable horror. Her daughter was still there, but Steven had vanished. This moment marked the beginning of one of the most mysterious and enduring missing child cases of the 20th century. The response from law enforcement was immediate. Nassau County Police arrived within minutes and began combing the area with volunteers. Local radio stations interrupted regular programming to announce Steven's disappearance, describing his appearance down to his small blue jacket and pants. News reports, amplified through the wide-reaching broadcast networks and newspapers of the day, were quickly spreading throughout New York and across the nation. The case became a nationwide story, with Steven's photograph appearing on the front pages of major newspapers. Police officers conducted a meticulous search of the surrounding neighborhood. They entered homes, interviewed residents, and scoured backyards, fields, and wooded areas nearby, but they found no evidence. The FBI joined the investigation, adding their resources to the search. They conducted detailed interviews with local store employees and patrons who were present around the time of the abduction. Unfortunately, despite the exhaustive search efforts, no significant clues surfaced. In 1950s America, investigative technology was limited, and the methods available to the police were rudimentary by today's standards. Police relied heavily on eyewitness reports, sketches, and word-of-mouth alerts. Unlike today, there was no way to instantly notify the entire region of a missing child, such as the Amber Alert system we have now. Surveillance cameras were practically non-existent. DNA testing was still more than 2 decades away from implementation in criminal cases, and the National Crime Information Center, NCIC, a database allowing police nationwide to share information, would not be established until 1967. As a result, the police had to rely on limited methods, which often included combing through physical evidence and witness statements. Over the following weeks, detectives followed numerous leads. Some witnesses reported seeing a man in his 20s or 30s holding the hand of a young boy who matched Steven's description. Another witness claimed to have seen a woman with a child fitting Steven's appearance. However, these leads were vague and led to dead ends. The lack of actionable information frustrated both law enforcement and the public. Newspapers published updates daily, amplifying the pressure on police and family alike. The growing media frenzy around the case was a double-edged sword. It kept public attention on Steven, but it also created a frenzied atmosphere where misinformation sometimes spread as quickly as verifiable facts. As the initial weeks turned into months, the Dammans' lives became marked by the grueling uncertainty that accompanies unsolved disappearances. Marilyn and Jerry Damman faced intense scrutiny as the public and investigators analyzed their actions and even questioned their character, a not uncommon reaction in high-profile missing person cases where frustration seeks an outlet. Yet, they continued cooperating fully with law enforcement, often appearing in press conferences, expressing their hope for Steven's safe return. Marilyn, in particular, bore the emotional weight of her last moments with her son, haunted by a decision that, in any other era, might not have carried such tragic consequences. As time passed without answers, the media slowly began to look elsewhere for headlines, and the case lost the sustained attention it once commanded. Then, in 1957, the discovery of an unidentified boy's body in Philadelphia, which would later be known as the Boy in the Box, briefly reignited public interest in Steven's case. Authorities in Philadelphia had found the battered body of a boy wrapped in a blanket and placed in a cardboard box, left in a desolate area. The child was of a similar age and build to Steven, which raised a glimmer of hope that the Damman case might finally reach a resolution. For days, investigators worked tirelessly to determine whether the boy in the box was Steven Damman. They compared scars, dental records, and physical descriptions. As gruesome as it was, the Dammans held on to hope that, if identified, they might finally know their son's fate. Ultimately, though, this lead was another heartbreaking disappointment. The boy in the box was not Steven. The sense of loss and despair deepened for Marilyn and Jerry, who had to face the realization that Steven's fate might forever remain unknown. The years that followed Steven's disappearance saw little progress, and the unsolved case became a haunting memory for the Damman family. Marilyn and Jerry's marriage grew strained as they coped with the loss in different ways. They eventually divorced, with Marilyn returning to her hometown in Iowa. For her, the pain and uncertainty of losing Steven remained an open wound. She lived with a lingering hope that someday her son might walk through her door. For Marilyn, like so many parents of missing children, the inability to find closure or even a body transformed her grief into a permanent part of her existence. Despite the decades that passed, the case still resonated with the public, especially among families who understood the emotional toll of a missing child. In 2009, over 50 years after Steven vanished, the case captured headlines again when a Michigan man named John Barnes claimed he might be Steven Damman. Barnes, who had grown up with suspicions about his identity and his birth records, sought DNA testing to see if he was related to the Damman family. Although the case had long since faded from the public eye, the revelations sparked a new wave of media coverage. However, the DNA test ultimately showed no connection between Barnes and the Damman family, leaving the mystery as unsolved as ever. The lasting legacy of Steven Damman's case is reflected in the changes to law enforcement and the awareness it generated about child safety. Though Steven's disappearance predated technological advances, cases like his contributed to the push for innovations that have since become standard. This tragedy underscored the need for a coordinated approach to missing children, helping lay the groundwork for the development of tools like the Amber Alert system and the establishment of organizations like the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Steven's story is a chilling reminder of the vulnerabilities of childhood and the enduring heartache that parents endure when a child disappears. For the Damman family, Steven's absence is a wound that has never healed, a mystery that has left them forever wondering, imagining, and grieving. Today, Steven's case stands as both a haunting symbol of mid-20th century America's innocence and as a catalyst for change in how society and law enforcement respond to missing children. The hope for closure continues to linger, but Steven remains one of many lost children whose stories remind us of the fragility of safety and the importance of constant vigilance and compassion in protecting the innocent. Thank you for joining us on Peaceful Stories, where we journey through some of the world's most intriguing and often unsettling tales. We hope you found today's story both thought-provoking and informative. If you enjoyed this story or if it offered new insights, please consider leaving a like, sharing, or subscribing to the channel to support more content like this. Remember, the world is full of mysteries and lessons in the stories we share, so stay tuned for our next journey. Until then, stay curious, stay safe, and take care.